Well, the charges are very serious. In fact, Cyrus Mistry has sent out a very strong note today. Rebutting the charges made by Tata Sons. The nine-page letter that was issued. It very clearly points out that very startling revelations actually. It talks about how Neera Radia was paid 40 crore per year. And that is something that once Cyrus Mistry came to the helm as far as Tata Sons is concerned, he made sure the services of Neera Radia of Vaishnavi Communications were discontinued immediately, and she was drawing a salary of around 40 crore per year and was replaced by Arun Nanda, who had been brought in by Ratan Tata at a cost of 60 crore per year for PR support. Now, the issues that the letter by Cyrus Mistry also points out is the fact that many of the top executives of Tata Sons, as also the GEC members, they were not drawing any salary per se, or they were not drawing commissions like it was happening from the operating companies. What the statement makes it very clear that Mr. Mistry drew remuneration only from Tata Sons. No member, including Mr. Mistry, took any commissions from any of the operating companies. Compare that to the earlier situation. Cyrus Mistry says that the GCC members were non-executive as far as Tata Sons were concerned, but they drew compensation as commissions from Tata Sons instead of salaries, which skewed the whole comparison compared to the previous years. It also says that the public knowledge that several erstwhile directors of Tata Sons drew additional parallel commissions from the operating companies as well. So basically what is being questioned here is that many of the associates of Ratan Tata, people who were closely involved with the Tata group, not only were they drawing commissions from Tata Sons, but that was the case with other operating companies as well. But in this case, once Cyrus Mistry came in, the GEC members and the senior Tata Sons members, they were not drawing any commission from the operating companies. They were only drawing salary from Tata Sons. So this is a big change he's talking about. He's also talking about how Neera Radia services had to be discontinued given the kind of huge payout that it involved. I am joined by Sandeep Parekh to take us through the new revelations that have come in from Cyrus Mistry's office. Sandeep, if I could come to you, the charges are quite serious. They say that many of the GEC members, after Cyrus came into power, they were drawing salary commission only from Tata Sons, the holding company. They were not doing so from the operating companies. But the erstwhile regime where Ratan Tata was at the helm, the GCC members were also drawing commission from most of the other operating companies. How do you see this charge, Sandeep?
Yes, I think these are all matters for the individual boards to decide. I think we're less on the legal issue and more on the fairness issue, whether multiple charges could or should have been levied, or should have been paid by both the operating companies and by Tata Sons. So I think it's good. Finally, there's some transparency in these companies, and ultimately, of course, there are two stakeholders which are in play really. One is when money goes out from operating companies, the minority shareholders of the listed companies get adversely impacted. And when payouts are given from Tata Sons, obviously the charities which are beneficiaries become adversely impacted. So I think we have to look at it from that perspective. And then, of course, it has to be seen from the angle of whether these are fair payments for the services which have been rendered, or they're handed out by way of keeping the wrong people happy.
Mohit, if I could come to you, the letter, takes a serious dig at the chairman emeritus, now the interim chairman, Ratan Tata. It talks about how Tata Sons was bearing the entire office costs of the chairman emeritus, and this figure was about 30 crore rupees in 2015, and a significant amount of which was used for corporate jets. The dual structure and attendant costs did not exist earlier. So the attacks are very personal at Ratan Tata. Mohit?
This is very unfortunate. That's all I can say. I really don't want to comment who's paying what. Really, at the end of the day, Tata's son, who's bearing, and this is actually, again, we are getting into a different level of leaking information. Cyrus Mistry camp is out to make sure and tell everybody that Ratan Tata had a big issue. All his investment decision was bad. He was using all the business and assets for his personal gain. And really, at the end of the day, he owned everything. His assets are with the trust, and his expenses are with the trust. So what's the big issue? At the end of the day, Tata Sons' profit dividend goes to the trust. But his expenses are part of the Tata Trust. What's the wrong issue? Because if the family has given up all the assets to Tata Sons and the beneficiary is a trustee, then I don't understand what's the big issue about it, except that you are trying to make sure that everybody believes that really at the end of the day, right now, if you look at the entire thing, Tata family has donated everything for the benefit of the trust, and Mr. Mistry is fighting for his personal gain. And therefore, this is absolutely no dispute. If a person of, if Mr. Mistry owns 16% of the company and is fighting, Tata actually owns all these companies and the large majority of it, and everything has been given for the benefit of the trust, and his expenses are taking care of the company. What's the big deal about? So I really feel that this is really fighting to finish, trying to make Ratan Tata look very bad, which I don't believe he's looking bad. He's actually, Mistry is showing that he's really fighting to prove a point one after the other. He was the chairman of the company and he was a managing director, and he was doing which was against the insider trading. Then he raised that issue and said that the company was in breach. All these investments, yesterday also the resolution said that the entire board was on board for all decisions. And Mr. Mistry is trying to just talk about one gentleman and how he was taking this company for granted and he was abusing his power and his position. In my view, this is very unfortunate. These are issues. If people were statesmen, they should have been left to the company and should not be leaked out of the press.
Mohit, it's a fight to the finish, no doubt, but Cyrus has also picked on the fact that many of the directors of Tata Sons were drawing parallel commissions not only from Tata Sons but also from the operating companies. His point is, once he took over as the Tata Sons chairman, the GEC members and including the chairman himself, they were drawing salary only from the holding company Tata Sons. They had nothing to do when it comes to remuneration from the operating companies. How do you see that, Mohit?
Again, we need to understand what he's talking about. I feel this is a selective leaking of information, and he's trying to make sure that the public mood is against him, against Tata and the Tata Sons group. I'm sure there is something which is not correct, and I don't believe at all. I don't believe at all the leaks of Mr. Mistry. I feel he's doing selectively. If there are 100 instances and there is one lapse, he's picking up the lapse and talking about it. And that's what it is doing. I really don't believe that even people who are on the board of Tata Sons, they are people of a lot of character. Some of them have actually given up large part of their assets and earnings for goodwill, for society, as a charitable institution. So I really don't believe what any of these things have been said. He's picking up one example and said, hey, this is bad. And that's all he's doing. And he will continue to do that till people tell him that he's a great man.
Sandeep, if I could get you in at this point of time, this Vijay Iyer, yes, Abhinava was rightly pointing out, clearly this is going to be a fight to the finish. But yes, this personal allegation and personal charges are being made. Raking up Neera Radia's name at this point of time clearly is an indication of to the extent that Mr. Mistry is ready to go and personally attack Mr. Ratan Tata. But having said that, clearly these monies also were being cleared by the respective boards, that Tata Sons or other Tata Group companies. Clearly the board in its collective wisdom will also have to answer these questions on the rationale for making this kind of payments even during Ratan Tata's time or even now during till the time Mr. Mistry was there at the helm of affairs.
See, so I think there are two different issues The first is the multiple payments by the operating companies and by Tata Sons. And I told you the kind of two people who were indirectly paying money, and therefore I think it's a matter of commercial judgment, really. I mean, it may be fair to say maybe Cyrus straightened out multiple payments by two independent directors. So I think to that extent, I think it's a judgment call of those companies. They modified the structure. I think the more important part is with respect to, I think, payments made, such large payments made to Neera, Radia, etc. And that's obviously been made to prejudice people's mind, and I'm sure it will create the right prejudice. Given her stature as somebody who has been quite notorious. And of course, I think to the extent that huge sums were paid for private jets of Ratan Tata, that will also create a huge public relations disaster, because essentially that money is not going to private trusts at all. These are not companies not owned by Ratan Tata or his family. These are charitable trusts, and therefore those 82% of that money was in fact going to charities. And to the extent they were complaining that we are not getting sufficient dividend, I think it's inconsistent that on the one hand, we are not getting enough dividend to pay to charities, and on the other hand, you're paying 30 crores to Chairman Emeritus for his private jets. I think there is a cognitive dissonance there, and I think he's appealing to people directly. And I think it will have the desired effect in terms of the sympathy which he's expecting to get from people. And obviously, there'll be approbation for Ratan Tata for blowing up so much money.
Mohit, how do you see this? I mean, the kind of payouts that were made to Neera Radia for public relations exercise, I mean, to build a kind of image for the group. I mean, how do you see these kind of large payouts?
Again, I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. I clearly feel that in past, a lot of organizations have used these public relationship companies and try to create public opinion. Now, in this country, we don't have really a rules and regulation for lobbying, and I think it's a high time that this industry is regulated. Everybody pays, but I think what is important is that you have to regulate like in the US, and if you don't do that, then obviously there will be misuse and there will be public opinion created, and a lot of government machinery will be misused. Having said that, really the more important question here is the selective leaking of information. Really, what is important is now basically what we are expecting is now Ratan Tata should start leaking about Cyrus Mistry, and Cyrus Mistry should read about Ratan Tata. And I think that's very unfortunate in my view, that you are trying to create a public opinion. Most of us can only comment about on the basis of what Mr. Mistry is leaking. Not really, maybe that's not the fact. Maybe it's a lie. Maybe it's a half-truth. We have no idea. And in my view, right now these payments are not illegal in India, and these are permitted payments. And again, the issues of private jet of Mr. Tata, we have no idea whether this money was being used. If it were, maybe this was a part of the trust. Maybe the Tata Sons was supposed to, and Mr. Tata was doing a lot of work for Tata Sons, and his expenses were booked. I have no idea what these expenses are for. From a corporate governance perspective, I believe that Tata Sons as a company must be benefiting out of these travels which Mr. Ratan Tata was doing. And just because it was a personal travel, it does not necessarily mean that the money was misused.
Sandeep Parekh, very clearly Cyrus talks about the steps he took to strengthen the financials of Tata Sons, and at the same time he goes on to add the kind of impairments and write-downs that Tata Sons had to go through due to legacy issues. In fact, he's questioned many of the transactions relating to TTSL, relating to Nagarjuna refineries, Sasol General joint venture. It's about the investments to Piaggio Aero. I mean, these are question marks that Cyrus Mistry is raising about the kind of investments that Tata Sons has made.
I think the real issue is not to do with poor investment choices made by Ratan Tata. I mean, businesses are entitled to make poor choices. And only in hindsight do we realize that those investments are bad, and JLR turned up to be a good investment. So I mean, it's been Europe has been particularly unlucky, and most of the investments are in Europe. So I think I would not second guess an investment decision which went bad later. I mean, of course, there are other allegations made of fraud in AirAsia, etc. So those are other separate issues. But broadly, I think, Cyrus is probably right that these are legacy issues. But at the same time, you as somebody leading a group, you make investment calls, and some of them will go right, some will go wrong. So to that extent, I would say Cyrus is being kind of too harsh.
Mr. Parekh, Vijay, if I could ask you one pertinent question. Yes, there were, now the allegations are being made depending on which camp the letters are coming from, but the fact remains that the monies have gone out. There have been expenses incurred on XYZ. Tata Sons board also has a lot of answering to do. At the same time, the listed companies which are giving commissions to say a Radia as per the claim of Cyrus Mistry also needs to justify, because these are not small amounts that we are talking at the end of the day, although it would be small in terms of the balance sheets that we are looking at of the respective companies. But these expenses, clearly the board at large will have to answer at some point of time of the expenses that have been incurred, whichever camp it may be coming or whichever camp be claiming against each other.
Yes, certainly. I mean, the board would be answerable if these issues went to the board. Many of these decisions are not taken to the board at all, including hiring of PR agency. So, I mean, to the extent it actually went to the board and board decided to hire so-and-so person, knowing that person's reputation, you can haul them off. But if the appointment was well before the notoriety kind of came out, then I don't think you'll be able to blame the board for it. So I don't know. It's hard for me to really judge whether the board kind of did something wrong or not.
Mohit, on a larger note, how does these allegations and counter allegations play down when it comes to the shareholder meeting, the EGMs that will happen sometime next month? I mean, because these are things that shareholders will take into account when they cast their vote on whether to replace Cyrus Mistry as chairman of many of the operating companies.
Shareholders have an obligation and they have a right to understand the company's resources are well spent. But again, I think that shareholders will also understand that Cyrus Mistry was running these companies. He was a chairman for last 4 years. Now, suddenly, after he's been asked to leave, how has he become holier than thou? Really, that's the key question. And therefore, I'm quite sure that most shareholders will look at these issues with a pinch of salt. I could have understood that he was trying to clean up and therefore he was asked to go. This really did not happen. That really there were issues and he was going on, and this is 4-year issues. And suddenly, after he has been asked to leave, there has been a problem in AirAsia. There have been a problem on every company. There has been a problem of taking fees, commissions. There are many more issues. And I'm sure that Ratan Tata and the Tata Sons can actually start talking about what he did wrong. But in my view, that will be most inappropriate. And I don't think just because one camp is getting into that mudslinging, that other camp should do that. And that really doesn't serve any purpose, except that it will confuse international investors and they will believe that the level of corporate governance is way too low.
All right, Mr. Mohit Saraf and Mr. Sandeep Parekh, thank you both of you gentlemen for taking time out as this big story is breaking right here on ET. And of course, our very own Abhinav Das and Vijay Ganeshan, thank you so much for putting the current breaking story into perspective for us. And with that, we've completely run out of time here on the show. Thank you so much for watching. This is Krishna Kumar signing off.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.